Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where we celebrate amazing stories of success and resilience. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and today I have got a really incredible guest. She's originally from Indianapolis and now lives in Birmingham, Alabama. She is the CEO of Jenkins Public Health Consulting. Her company helps public health and healthcare agencies achieve health equity, focusing on chronic disease and injury prevention. She also mentors aspiring public health professionals, guiding them toward success. Her journey is really inspiring. She once dreamed of becoming a pediatric surgeon, but her passion for helping others led her to public health. When she's not working, she loves traveling, beach days, picnics, swimming, and barbecues. She is a gal after my own heart. Today, Brittany's going to share her story, the challenges that she's faced, and of course, her keys to living a badass life. Get ready to be inspired by her incredible journey on today's episode, The Art of Badassery. Brittany, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. So first of all, public health, I'm in Canada, you're in the States. It's a hot topic and it feels like it's been a hot topic for years. We are absolutely looking for better service, better, cheaper services. And it's a tough grind. What do you think has been the biggest challenge that you face today in your world?
In my world or the States, when it comes to healthcare and public health access, is access. We are seeing a lot of people don't have the transportation or the money that they need to get the care that they need, even the jobs to then get the healthcare and then the transportation that they need, So really focusing on the social determinants of health to identify what the needs are of those individuals within that specific community, because it changes by community, even within the state. And so that's really been the biggest issue. And me as a health educator, really working with these organizations to talk to them about how can we identify the need from like the grassroots level versus, hey, this is the service that we provide and come to us, versus the organizations, these hospitals going out in the community and telling them that these resources are available and seeing how we can get them access to those resources.
Yeah, I hear you. Access is everything. I do want to talk about this more, but I would miss if I didn't go back a little further. As a little girl, did you ever picture yourself knocking on doors going, hey, people, we got to make a change in our healthcare. Hey, are you listening? I got something to tell you.
No, I didn't. I did not. And, with the brief introduction saying that I want to be a pediatric surgeon, that's where I really thought I was going to be. I mean, all the way up until college, I was so gung-ho onto becoming a pediatric surgeon. When I went to college, I was very active and I was making sure I was a part of these healthcare organizations like the American Red Cross and volunteering in other areas of my life. But also I ended up working at a hospital where I realized that patients were there for preventable diseases and dying from things that were also preventable. And that really changed my mind. That rocked my world. It led me to try to find a degree path that I could achieve that was more so helping people, on the other side of that, which is prevention. So I ended up changing my degree from healthcare or, nursing to public health and have not looked back and have been working in prevention for about 10 years now. 3 of those years, so I've been in the industry for about 13 years. 3 of those years was healthcare, but the rest has been prevention, and I have not looked back yet.
So cool. As a young girl,
yes,
of being a pediatric surgeon, what was it about that appealed to you so much?
Well, I had opportunities to job shadow the pastor's wife at my church, who was a pediatrician. And there was just a lot of unique opportunities to see different patients of all ages and dealing with different challenges. There was babies who were adopted who needed new, hearts and things like that. So I knew that that's something that I wanted to work in to save these babies because that was just all I saw. That's all I was immersed in at a very young age. And people used to tell me, like, why are you so dedicated to this at such a young age? I was like 13, 14, trying to be a part of this nursing program at the hospital. And they're like, ma'am, you're a little too young. But that's what I wanted to do because of how I was introduced to it and just all the things that I saw around me that these families needed help. So I definitely wanted to play a role in helping people in some capacity.
So beautiful. It's not often that we as young women, that focus at such a young age.
Yeah.
So I really take my hats off to you. Out of curiosity, is this common in your family? Do you all, I don't know how big a family you're come from, but is this common, this determination and fight?
I would say the determination is there for us all. I have 4 sisters and 5 brothers. So I have a big family, but only one other sister is working in healthcare. So, for the healthcare piece of it, it's only us 2. But yeah, the fight and the drive is all of us. I think it might be the family dynamic that caused that. We had to fight over our food and fight over our toys. There was so many of us and just try to make it through the day in the best way possible, But really too, we had to put ourselves through college, the ones who did go. And that was where that determination was built up in me to say, hey, if you want to do this, you got to make it through it. And you have to figure it out. You can't make your past an excuse for where you are today. And so I had to make it happen. I was that college student who actually was able to get about 13 scholarships to support my college funds. But then that still was a lot of money left out that I had to figure out on my own. So yeah, the determination started super young as well.
I would be remiss if I didn't call out, as this is the art of badassery, and often can play a very huge, big part in feeling badass. But really, when you think about it, do you think your determination came from being one of many and just, as you said, having to fight for everything? Or did it go a little bit deeper than that? All joking aside.
Yeah. To be fully transparent, it did come from deeper than that because we were raised by our grandparents, mom, dad, not around. And so the real determination was like, how do I make it out of here with good mental health? And though I really didn't understand what that meant at that young age, I knew that I wanted to stay happy and stay healthy and be, successful. And that wasn't around me at all. And I don't see a lot of that in my circle of influence within my family. And so I knew I wanted to be outside of that and do everything I could so that one day I could give back to, if my family needs things in any capacity, I could give back to that. So that's really where the determination came from, just the separation from my family and just knowing that there was a lot of struggle in that. And I didn't want to struggle forever.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's so powerful when we can, number one, recognize that we are all one, one part of one community. And the other thing I want to call out is, it sounds like you recognize, whether you realized it or not, that you have a choice. Choice in everything.
Yeah.
I do think that's another component of being badass is when we recognize our worth, along with that comes the recognition that we have a choice.
Yeah.
To everything we have.
The good decision or the bad decision. Right. And, I have older siblings, so I was able to see their mistakes and say, hey, do you want that whooping or do you want that punishment in whatever capacity it comes in? So I learned a lot, but I still had my troubles and I still had to choose which way I was going to go and stay determined or make an excuse. Because there was too many times I could have used an excuse on why I didn't do something or chose not to do something because of my past excuse. And I want to be better than that and still fighting that to this day. But how can I continue to be determined to know that, hey, the excuses take you nowhere. Only determination.
Yeah, such a good thing, such a good call out. Excuses, you're right, they take you absolutely nowhere. And in fact, some may argue that they take you further back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not one step forward, one step back. It's one step forward, 10 steps back, depending on what you've actually chosen to do. What do you think is one of the biggest things that you learned about yourself as a young woman is when you changed your mind? Like, what did you, I find it very interesting that you'd have the courage to go, wow, I think I'm going to switch gears slightly. What did you learn about you during that time?
I learned that I love people, and from like the deep part, like, empathetic versus sympathetic, even beyond that, because I wanted to really save people's lives. Like, I was like, okay, I might not want to save their lives through surgery, through becoming a surgeon, like I thought, but I want to make sure that people can live a long, healthy life. And how can I do that? So I knew that I wanted to serve people. I really did know that. And I can talk to anyone. I can walk up to anyone and not be nervous. I still have some stage fright now. I can't talk in front of like 500 people without stage fright, but I still love people. And for me, that is like a big trait that a lot of people don't have, and that's okay. But I think that's what makes me unique, because I don't mind talking to strangers to get them into these resources and programs that are available and to spark up these conversations that catch their attention. Yeah. So that's that.
You're not watching the video, guys. I just want to share with you that her face is absolutely lit up. It's like she put a little.
Oh,
So I can see it in your face. The energy's just gone through the roof. Such a fortunate thing, because not everybody lives a life where they know their passion.
mm-hmm.
I can see it in your face. I'm living my passion by doing what I do. And so it's really fun to talk to people.
Yes.
Time on the show that are living their passion. Is it what you thought it was going to be when you finally made the decision to move into public health and you started to sort of formulate what you wanted that to look like? Is it what you thought it was going to be?
No, not, I wouldn't say not at all, but one thing that I didn't realize public health was that it was in all aspects of our lives. The places that we walk, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the water that we drink, the places that we go in. Like, public health is everywhere around us. And I didn't know there were so many areas of opportunity for me to work in, which I've been blessed to work in so many areas within public health. And that is not something I expected. And, we talked about briefly the people that I mentor who are pursuing public health as a career. They don't even realize how big public health is and how so many opportunities can bleed into your passion, your unique passion. So that was such an eye-opening moment for me when I was working for a health department and was so blessed to work in many different areas within a health department. That really has stuck with me for forever and has helped me to see how I can support agencies in different ways within healthcare and public health as well.
So I can't help but wonder, and of course I do live in Canada, but we're.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder though, if these different agencies view themselves that way, or if that's part of the education that you bring to the world is, hey, environmental science.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that you're figuring this out, but did you realize that you're a part of what I do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it just depends on, like, are they at the local, state, or federal level of, environmental health? Because the language does change a little bit. So like public health, environmental health at a public health department, like they understand they are a part of this public health industry. But I think at a federal level or a huge, Fortune 500 environmental health agency, they might not consider themselves public health professionals. But it depends on what they're doing. Are they educating people about what's happening to our environment and things like that? Because then you are a public health professional, but it just depends on the level that they are, the sector.
Fair enough. Do you
Yeah.
find you yourself have to adjust your language based on where you're at, who you're talking to, and what bridge you're trying to gap? Or have you found a median?
I have noticed that I have to change my language on if I'm talking to a nonprofit public health agency versus a for-profit healthcare company, because that's a little different. And they talk more business, like they really talk more like they're operating as a full-blown business. And even though nonprofits are businesses, they still don't talk in that language, right? And we talk about patients and community-based organizations, and they say clients and, agency and there's just a little bit different language. But what I've noticed, because I work with pharmacists and physicians as clients, that they appreciate that public health connection that we have, because they don't speak in that language and they want to speak more in that language, because they're able to break down their language to talk to the community about what's happening with the pharmacies or with the healthcare agencies, so that people can understand it and understand what services are available to them, which increases, recruitment rates and participation rates.
Language is so powerful. And I talk about it a lot on this show. Not only the language, our first language that we speak, but sort of the automatic slang, shall we say, that
Mhm.
we often use to bring ourselves down.
Mhm.
Internal voice, right? I may be educated and use these words when I'm pretending to be someone. They
Yeah.
see me as this.
Mhm.
Feeling lousy about myself. You can bet that ain't, those are the words I'm using. I'm using a different,
Right.
often it's slang and it's quite negative. Have you found for yourself that you succumb to some of these stories or narratives that really don't serve you as you go on your
Mhm.
trip? Look at she guys, she's nodding.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry. Forgot there was a podcast. I was like feeling that so deeply. Yes. Imposter syndrome. Absolutely. And that's part of our public health mentorship program. But at the same time, I still struggle with that, right? I teach people how to overcome imposter syndrome and self-sabotage, but it hits you at every area of your life. It doesn't matter how successful you are, how whatever success means to you, it still hits me. And I recently I'm working with a health commissioner in a different state. It's one-on-one, they're a private client. And I'm just like, wow, they chose me. I was feeling some type of way and felt it like, I'm this great, and that's what we're talking about. Even if you say I'm really that great, that's kind of like putting yourself down. Like, why? Of course you are. Of course, that's why you're doing the work that you're doing. Right. And so how do we flip those words to build ourselves up? Because what we put into ourselves is what we're going to thrive on and survive on. So why would I put something negative inside of me? Right. That's just going to tear me down and eat me up and tire me out. So yes.
I love that you're chuckling about this because really, when we can just sort of take a breath and realize the things that we've said about ourselves,
Yeah.
the judgments that we hold on others. I tell a story about my kid calling me out on a judgment that I had about someone. And I didn't even realize
Mhm.
I didn't even realize. And I'll tell you, first of all, the first thing I felt was shock. Are they?
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, mom, you said
Mhm.
say that. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean anything by it. And they totally spanked me. And
Yeah.
guys, this was only a few years ago, but it
Yeah.
highlighted how insidious judgments are.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the next thing I thought was, I'm so glad you're my children. I must have done a great job raising you because neither of you had an issue calling me out.
Yeah.
But it really, it sat with me for a while. This idea that, wow, how is it that I'm a life coach and I'm so together and I'm so articulate, and yet I still have so many crazy judgments that
Yeah.
serve no purpose except to make me feel badly.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because one of the things that I talk to healthcare and public health agencies about is biases and stereotypes. I'm not this like DEI coach, but this is part of the work that I do for us to build trust with communities. And we have there's over 170 different biases that we have. And that's an unconscious and conscious bias, right? And a lot of the times we don't realize it. And in those simple things that we do and say that we think is normal to say because of whatever, that does affect how we build relationship or interfere with other people who could be offended by those things. So just know if there's over 170 biases, nearly everyone has a bias, whether they admit it or not, know that they do or not. We do. So how can we address those things privately, right? Behind closed doors so that we can better serve those people that we're aiming to serve with, even with our podcast, right? So I love that you kind of mentioned that because it's super important to really identify your biases. One of them that I was working with a homeless shelter on was beauty bias, right? Assuming that what someone looks like, how they show up is, oh, they're smart, they're intelligent, they got it together. They don't need any resources. But one of the things in the Black community that I can share is that a lot of times we talk about we have to be in our best outfit, have our hair and our makeup together before going to a doctor's visit. So we're not, stereotyped about what we can or cannot do for ourselves or our children. So that's a fear within the healthcare system among different, communities of people. But it stems from a lot of that bias and stereotypes too.
Can I just say that it breaks my heart that in 2024, we are still
Yeah.
talking about this? I mean, it is
Yeah.
unacceptable that
It
we
is.
have to behave like this. This isn't a political podcast. I'm not going down that road.
Absolutely not.
But I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge what you've just said and just say that, I feel you. I get it. I totally
Yeah.
get it. I grew up, I'm Jamaican. I live in Canada. I immigrated here when I was 10. And, I remember thinking, I have to dress like the white girl at school. I got to wear the bootlegger jean.
Yeah.
I got to wear I can't be wearing my hair in dreads and talking Marley, like nobody listens to reggae here. I got to just put them at home and listen to the Bee Gees. Of course, I love the Bee Gees and I love reggae. That is the reality of growing up different, looking different, either than your neighbor or the entire community that you live in. But we're here to break that. We're here to have conversations that really highlight that we are all one, whether we look like A or B or C or D or So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, such a good. Where am I going to take this conversation now? What do we go next? What's been the biggest challenge for you as a woman in your industry?
A challenge for me as a woman in my industry, honestly, I don't think it's any outside factors. It's me. It's just keep going, even though it's challenging. It's confusing. You don't know everything, even though you're so intelligent. You're always learning every single day, something new or a new way to do something. So it's like that dedication, the consistency, that's the challenge. I'm also a mom, a wife. We live in different states from our family and friends. Like we're hundreds, thousands of miles from our family and friends. So, I have to stay determined. If this is what I want to do, I have to get up every day and be dedicated to that. And like one of my tips is like, I have to get out here and network, because if I'm not out here networking, that's a lot of where your business is going to come from. And that's how you're going to see what's going on in your community and hear about what's going on in your community. Even though I work with companies outside of my state, I still want to make sure that I'm providing resources to those who live in my state. So I'm everywhere all the time.
You know what I think is so powerful about what you shared is some people may hear the term networking and think, oh, that's a business term. Peeps,
No.
Networking is community, whether you're in business or not, whether you work at home as a stay-at-home mom, which believe me is work, or you work out in the community. I think one of the most important things, and this is one of the things that I really struggled. I didn't struggle, but it was important to me that my children understood this, was that they matter. And if they matter and they belong, so does everybody else.
Absolutely.
So growing up, just going out and talking to your neighbor, I almost feel like it's a forgotten art, at least with a lot of the clients that I talk to. It is one of the things that we work on a lot is if you are when you are comfortable enough within your own skin, it's easier to reach out to someone else.
Yes. Absolutely.
Judgment blocking you from, I shouldn't talk to that person. I'm not good enough to be in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Quite a bit. So I just wanted to call that out, that there's networking is great. It's bottom line.
Yeah. And I think like even outside of business, networking got me so far in my career before I started my business that people were like, how did you do that? And I guarantee that it was networking. When I was an intern, I was meeting every single person that I could who was doing something that I wanted to do. And that was another part of that dedication and me really not even seeing it as networking, but I'm like, I want to be better than where I am right now because I'm eating like ramen noodles and I'm tired of this. So I was out there making connections with other professionals who were doing what I wanted to do. And that led me to my first opportunity as an environmental health specialist for the Marion County Public Health Department. And then it just skyrocketed from there because I was also talking to other people in different departments. My boss actually recommended me for a raise. And she was like, you should go apply for this. And I'm like, I was nervous. I'm like, is she serious? Like, how many times does your boss actually encourage you to go apply for a job to get out of their department? And you've only been there for like 6 months. So that was a blessing for me to be dedicated to making connections with people while I was working in the field and not a business owner. I hadn't even really thought about being a business owner at that time in my life. So it can carry you far beyond that. And like you mentioned in your community, I love Eventbrite. I love Facebook events. Like go out there and meet people. How can we build friendships and communities if we're staying in our house and staying in our bubble of friends? Like find these free low cost events happening in your city and spark up some conversation.
I heard badass in so many things that you just shared with me. One of the in my head was recognizing that the world changed with COVID?
Mhm.
Did 90% of us move into, our bedrooms and get on Zoom, which is a
Mhm.
whole new avenue for connection, but it also polarized communities, especially in the healthcare field.
Mhm.
One of my recent guests talked about, she's a lifestyle practitioner. She's a registered nurse and a life medicine practitioner, excuse me. And she talked a lot about how COVID affected her and her even familial relationships, because people were so polarized by vaccinations or not vaccinations. And I'm not going down that road,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
how did your business, and were you in business during COVID? First question. And if so, how did you navigate it?
Yes, I was in business during COVID. I also had a baby during COVID, but I navigated it because I have some online coaching programs that were created prior to COVID that were still thriving, thankfully, during COVID. So that kind of took out the need to transition all of what I'm doing into some coaching package or online program. It was already there. And really what I did was duplicate that for the health organizations that I serve. So the public health mentorship program for professionals who are pursuing career in public health, that's already been a coaching program since 2018. And then the B2B or the healthcare and public health agencies, we can provide that online coaching program through a portal as well. So most of the time I'm working with them outside of the online coaching program, but that's really helped me so much during COVID, especially having a new baby, first time mom. That was a big transition. I felt like that on top of COVID was crazy. And then we moved to a different state when she was about 3 weeks old. So further away from our families. So we had so many things to figure out, but it worked out. It was just like being optimistic and saying yes to this new blessing in so many different ways. And it's worked out really.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your baby.
Thank you. She's 2.5 now.
So I don't understand. Nobody taught me, or no one, when I was growing up, no one said, hey, you know what? It takes a lot of work to be a great mom. Just so you know, because but I grew up thinking, I just want to be a mom. I want to have a great husband, but I want to have babies, and it's going to be so lovely. And, we're given the dollies to play with, and then we were given Barbies to play with. Not quite sure how we went from chubby little baby dolls to, totally Barbies, but that's another conversation. However, now that all I wanted was to be a mom, and thankfully I have a great marriage and I have two beautiful children, but it was really, and continues to be, not only the most important job I have, but one of the hardest jobs I have. And sometimes I remember when the kids were younger, I remember being really angry that the women in the country told me about the challenge of being there and being a quote good mom. And I wish that the conversations were more prevalent. That's like, hey, you know what? Just because you can have kids, it may not be for you. Like, let's have a conversation around not only the responsibility, the financial responsibility, the mental and the emotional and the physical responsibility of raising.
Yes.
And it's not the faint of heart, because motherhood takes courage, people.
Absolutely. And I would say, like I mentioned, living in a different state away from any person who could support us, like daycare is really our support system. And that's not ideal, but they're great. But the thing is, like, the work-life balance for my family and my daughter, my husband, it's real, because when they come home, I'm like, I try to cut everything off at that time to spend that time with them, because it is challenging. It is challenging to be a mom and show up and make sure that she's learning and she's growing and all of her needs are taken care of. But, a lot of that time we spend outside too. It helps everyone. It makes everyone happy when we're outdoors, letting her run free versus being cooped up in the house and screaming and wanting snacks all day. So we just try to spend our time outdoors, and that makes everyone's mental health even better.
Another badass tip, peeps, is if you've got people screaming, get outside, because they don't care if it's raining. In fact, they may right?
She'll be running out in the rain, and we're just standing right there, just in the dry, like underneath in the garage, watching her run in the rain. So, yeah.
Brittaney, talk to us about what you're doing today. Can you give us a really all the things that you are interested in, what you're doing? I'd love for you to do a deep dive on that for our audience.
Yes, right now I've been helping some pharmacies implement diabetes education programs for individuals who are living with type 2 diabetes. And that has been extremely rewarding because we've identified an area that had a high rate of individuals living with diabetes. And I am that person who is coming in to support this agency by developing a strong recruitment and retention strategy to ensure these patients actually complete the program without having any type of limitations or barriers to getting there, right? Like we talked about transportation, looking at those social determinants of health and not just treating their diabetes, but also making sure that other needs are met, right? When it comes to nutrition, the weight, et cetera, whatever their specific needs are for that specific patient. Also mentoring individuals who are pursuing careers in public health, helping them land mid to senior level jobs in public health, building on about 30 plus skills that health leaders or directors are wanting their staff to have. We have been doing that for individuals since 2018, 2019. And so they're going out fully. But for the most part, what I'm doing is helping these healthcare and public health agencies spread awareness about the programs that they have available and get people into these programs by really, again, addressing those social determinants of health. So yeah, been loving what I'm doing for the last 6 years. This is year 6 in business and we're going to keep it going.
I love it. My goodness, Brittaney, so much juiciness in your story. And really, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the work that you do. It's so
Absolutely.
that we find a way to bridge the gap because
Yes.
it's easy to get caught up in I'm doing such a great thing. This corporation or this
Mhm.
huge conglomerate we're making strides in the world. But if it's
Yeah.
not what people need, then
Mhm.
it's actually not doing its job. So I really
Yeah.
thank you for stepping up and being one of many, I think, that actually are like, wait a second, there's
Right.
in here and I'm going to fill that
Mhm.
gap. Thank you for doing that. Absolutely. And thank you.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
This has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to share about what you do on a daily basis, maybe, or let's say regular basis, to remind you of your great
Mhm.
and face the day,
Yes.
the best version of you?
I really am big on positive affirmations. I know these cliche things, like you mentioned networking, but really I dove into positive affirmations when I was pregnant because I just had those really bad thoughts. But that carried me even now. Positive affirmations help to energize me every day. When I'm telling myself in the mirror, even when I'm doing jumping jacks to energize myself, I am strong. I got this. I was chosen for this opportunity. I feel like that gives me so much energy for the day. And that helps me walk with more confidence. I speak a lot about walking in your purpose. Even when I'm talking to agencies about race and bias and how they can build trust with communities, it's like, if this is what you're doing to walk in your purpose, how can we walk into it better? And I just really do feel like those positive affirmations fire me up so deeply. And I'm always trying to spread that message to individuals and people that I touch around me as well.
So beautiful. One of the first books that I ever read, oh my gosh, almost 40 years ago, was Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And it
Mhm.
affirmations there. So I'm with you. I've loved them and
Yeah.
them fairly regularly because sometimes I just want to jazz up the language a little bit, but really it is part of being a badass is, as I've said earlier, it's recognizing that you matter and
Mhm.
reminding yourself of that. And if looking at yourself in the mirror going, you go girl, you got this, that's going to
Yeah.
raise your energy, even just 1% or one little tiny bit.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Go for it. But
Yes.
affirmations are a great way to just remind yourself that
Yes.
for a reason and matter.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts matter. Your feelings matter. And if you
Yes.
help figuring that out, then reach out, right? This is what I do.
Yes.
I'm a coach.
Absolutely.
This is what
Yeah.
you do for a living in a way. You're also a coach, very specific coach and
Yes.
specific niche, which is brilliant. Thank you so much for taking time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Folks, this has been The Art of Badassery. I want a special thanks to my guest, Brittaney, today. And I'll see you next week when I chat with someone new. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to another badass episode. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and rate the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback keeps the badassery flowing. And hey, if you're ready to unleash your inner badass and conquer whatever life throws your way, why not book a complimentary badass breakthrough session? Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your session, and let's kick some serious butt together. Until next time, stay fearless, stay fabulous, and of course, stay badass. This is Mahara signing off.